The next writing trait we're going to talk about today is word choice. So, when we talk about word choice in our writing pieces, we want to convey our intended message. So, if I am talking about how important it is to take care of our environment, by the end of reading that essay, hopefully the reader understands that that was my intended message. So, getting across your point. Our word choice, when we're choosing words, we also want to make sure that those words are functional and appropriate. Functional meaning the word is actually being used accurately and in the sentence basically as how it should be used. So sometimes we have to look at different homophones and how we want to make sure we're using the correct version of that. And appropriate, again, making sure if we're writing a story to our grandma, that's going to sound differently than if we're writing an essay to our principal. So using the appropriate word choice, making sure it's directed to our audience in an appropriate way. Ordinary words are used in unusual or striking ways. So it doesn't have to be completely filled with all these amazing words that sound super interesting. It can also be just using ordinary, everyday words, but putting them together in such a way that it makes your sentence flow really nicely. We also want to use a broad range of words in varied ways. So, not using the same words over and over again, using a lot of different words and making sure that when we're doing our transitions, we're putting the words in different phrases. We're not, again, using the same words again and again. Our word choice not being overdone. So, again, we do want to use interesting words sometimes, but not using a thesaurus on every single word to try to make it sound interesting. Just making sure that your words flow together. And lastly, again, we want to make sure our words are accurate and specific in order to get that conveyed intended message across. Also talking about sentence fluency. So we want to make sure it's an easy flow and rhythm. So what that means is when you're reading from sentence to sentence in a paragraph, it flows really nicely. It doesn't sound choppy or robotic. It actually sounds like you would be talking normally. Strong and varied structure. So instead of having a bunch of short sentences together, let me try a short sentence and then a longer sentence with commas and such. Actually, making sure we're using simple and complex sentences together, not just using the same types of sentences over and over. So it either sounds like a huge run on paper or just very short sentences. So we're making sure we're using varied structures and using simple and complex sentences together. Oral reading is easy and enjoyable. So when you read your writing piece out loud, you're not stumbling through it because it's actually easy to read out loud and it's enjoyable. So a lot of times I'll ask students to read aloud what they've written and they'll just stop and say, huh, that sounds a little funny. And that's how you know you have to fix something. So when you read your piece out loud, it's actually enjoyable to read out loud because that's the whole point of writing, to be read. And lastly, structure enhances meaning. So when you're writing those sentences and you're actually reading it out loud or to yourself, it should be able to convey that meaning and your message across perfectly.